One of the most fundamental freedoms outlined in the Constitution was the freedom of speech. It is so instrumental and so fundamental that the Founding Fathers put it as the First Amendment. However, recently the freedom of speech has been under fire, not from the government, but from these major tech corporations, such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter. These major tech companies are given special immunity from the government, known as the Section 230 part of the Communications Decency Act. This act prevents people from suing these major tech corporations for what their users post, but in turn, these tech corporations are supposed to act as neutral platforms. However, recently many of these tech corporations have not been acting as neutral platforms, and have been censoring anyone who they disagree with, basically cutting them out of what is now the new public town square. These technology giants control the means that over 90% of modern-day conversations happen. In order to ensure that these tech corporations do not police what the public can say, the government protections, or Section 230, need to be revoked. These major tech companies prevent people from hearing alternative points of view on very important and very particular issues, effectively preventing people from being able to come to their own opinions. Many of my own personal views have been shaped from the numerous viewpoints that I otherwise would not have been able to be exposed to. Without hearing these voices, I'd be completely oblivious to many key and pressing issues that go unreported. As George Washington once stated, if the freedom of speech is taken away, the dumb and silent can be led like sheep to a slaughter. After the shooting in Parkland, there was a large concerted effort from many people to try to dilute the facts of what actually happened. During this time, I started doing my own research. I scrolled all over the internet and I went to many places because of these large platforms. And what I discovered was that many people tried to spin the facts in order to further their own agenda. Many of my strong beliefs that I have only exist because I was able to be exposed to ideas that were not typically covered. Many ideas I was once ignorant towards, I am knowledgeable on. And if it weren't for the freedom and the spotlight that gets shined on many of these important issues, I would still be ignorant towards them till today. Without having access to these sources, I would have not had my mind open to many key issues and ideas that today I feel very strongly about. However, a law in 1996 allows these corporations to prevent these ideas from seeing the light of day, preventing people from learning about very key issues. As Fast Company puts it, Section 230 protections of the Communications Decency Act was passed in 1996, back when the internet was in its infancy. This legislature provided protections for tech giants such as Facebook and Twitter, with a pretext that they have to be neutral and not censor views that they disagree with. In order to take a step in protection of freedom of speech on the internet, Section 230 protections need to be revoked. Since 1996, the internet has evolved and changed, but the vague language of a law has allowed these major tech companies to act as a publisher, but still gain the benefits of platforms. Many people have tried to close these loopholes. However, in doing so, they either fail or end up creating more. You cannot build a skyscraper in mud, and you cannot fix a law that was broken from the beginning. Why should these major tech companies be given special protections when they violate many of the requirements for those protections? Government is not allowed to censor people, so why should these private companies be given special protections from the government and allowed to censor anyone they please? According to the American Bar Association, the First Amendment only applies to government officials. And yes, in most instances, this is true. However, publishers such as the New York Times, CNN, and many other mainstream media are allowed to choose what they post. However, this comes at a cost, as they are responsible for any defamatory or flatulent and false stories that they put out. These major tech companies are allowed to function as platforms and are given the protections as much, but are still allowed to choose what is posted. They're allowed to have the best of both options, but consequences of none. The freedom of speech is one of the most fundamental and important freedoms that we have. However, an outdated law allows for major corporations who control the space where the vast majority of conversations nowadays happen. This law, Section 230, part of the Communications Decency Act, has many loopholes which allows these corporations to censor anyone they please. Although many people have suggested amending the law, Every suggestion that has been proposed either fails to solve the loopholes or ends up creating more. The best solution is to just revoke this law and create another one. For these major tech corporations, they need to face the consequences. Freedom of speech is one of the most fundamental freedoms outlined in the Constitution. However, recently many of these major tech companies are allowed to censor anyone who they please. They're allowed to do this with immunity from prosecution, thanks to the Section 230 part of the Communication Decency Act. Democracies and republics are found on the free exchange of ideas. Without this free exchange of ideas, people can be led astray, like cattle to a slaughter.